Hello and welcome back to the Kerry Garden Show. Alan Finn here again from Boyles of Killorglin, joined by our gardening expert Miguel. Miguel, how are things?
Things are good.
Things are good. Things are good.
They could be better.
They could. Well, sure. Look, they could always be better.
They can always be better. They can always be worse. So
Yeah.
I don't complain. I won't.
Well, listen. Let's try and make things better for any of our listeners or viewers who might be looking at trying to cover some walls. Now, we could be talking back walls, side walls, the walls of a house. We could be talking about some fencing, but we are going to talk.
Ditch.
Or a ditch, or a ditch. We're going to talk about some great ways that we can do that through climbing plants and the different varieties.
So, I was talking to you before about it before with you. I have a neighbor with a Boston ivy, and the neighbor next to him has an ivy.
Okay.
And they're both stunning houses. You go there. The houses themselves are old houses, old townhouses. But when you see the walls, you're like, wow.
Covered by all the ivy.
Covered by. Yeah. So it has its good things, its downsides, but they are very. I was reading about this a few days ago about the well-being that they transmit. So the feeling of well-being. Watching a wall full of green or color in your house, it looks like it's very positive for your mind and for your well-being. So you don't need to use them in your house, but you can use them in fences. You can use them in other walls, side walls, plenty of places.
Well, I know that my wife gets very anxious when she looks out the back door and sees just that grey-black or the grey brick wall. She's been talking about it for years, that she'd love to get some plants to cover it and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm going to tell my wife to listen into this show. So where could we start?
Where we could start is the type of climbing plants. Okay. So it will be probably plenty more, but we're gonna stick to 3 types.
Okay.
So it will be the aerial root plants.
Aerial roots, okay.
Aerial roots will be the climbing hydrangea, or the English ivy, or the ivy in general. Mm-hmm. Those plants, what they have is aerial roots in their knots. So those roots go into the joints of the bricks or whatever joint is on the wall.
Yeah.
And they stick there. It's been many years listening about this potential harm for the walls, right?
Yeah.
The structural problems after a few years. So it's been demonstrated that the houses built after 1930, 1940, the mortar is completely different. They won't crumble.
Yeah.
That mortar won't crumble. What you have to do if you have a brick wall and you want one of these aerial root plants is check with a knife your mortar. If it crumbles, I wouldn't do it.
Okay.
If not, it will be fine. Those roots are not real roots.
Okay.
Are clinging roots.
Yeah.
So they can crumble a little bit and they can create a little bit of mess. But if the mortar is okay, it should be okay.
Yeah. So they'll just kind of go into those little grooves, and it's just allowing the plant then to grow further up. So it's like, for all intents and purposes, it's like fingers in a ladder.
Yes,
just
and
trying
you can do a little bit of
on.
harm if you're going
Small
into
bit,
these bricks, trying to do Spider-Man things. So that's the most relevant thing in those plants.
And people have that misconception then, Miguel, I guess, is that's where that's coming from, that people think that climbing plants will actually damage the wall, or they'll...
No, not at all. It will be most probably they will be protecting your walls.
Protecting the wall, okay, so that's good to know.
So where you don't want to use climbers, you don't want to use climbers in wood walls, wooden fences, or let's say you have a timber shed, you don't want a climber there.
Okay.
That will be destroying. Even composite is not recommended.
Okay.
That will be eventually destroying the wall. The humidity that accumulates in between the plant, the timber needs to breathe.
Yes.
So that will be counterproductive. That's the only place you shouldn't be using a climbing plant.
Okay, so not near any fences timber, or any composite.
You can use it in a timber fence.
Yeah.
But you'll have in mind that in a few years that fence, the life of that fence won't be the same as the life if you of that fence if you paint it and protect it every year.
Okay.
Right? Call it this way.
Yeah.
So that's the aerial roots
The aerial
plants.
roots, okay.
Then we have
Two
another
more.
types of one that is the Boston ivy is the perfect example for that. They have pads.
Pads.
Pads that stick into the wall. Okay, they don't need that roots. They have that so
They're like little
like
kind of
sucking.
veins, or I think they kind of come out and stick to the wall. Yeah.
And they not only wrap around those, and you cannot see they are dead. They end up with a small little pad that sticks into the floor, into the wall.
Into the wall, right.
And that allows those plants to creep, to go up, all right? That won't be hurting anything, not recommended in wood. No plant is recommended in wood, excepting if you have a trellis supporting that you can...
That is actually out from it, okay. So if you were to put a trellis along a back wall, that would be, you know, a wooden fence. Or
so the idea is to give air circulation between the plant and the wood.
Okay.
That you can do something there. But these plants will cling. Those, the first aerial roots, these are self-clinging plants. Self-clinging plants that is self-sticky.
Yeah. Sticky,
More than
absolutely.
self-clinging. Because then we have the twining plants, the plants that
so that's
just
the third
climb.
type. Okay.
We have a specific one here that is different, is the pyracantha, that will be growing against the wall, supporting by itself. It won't be clinging to anything, all right? So it will be leaning against the wall and going up.
And growing up, yeah.
If you give it a trellis, and you need to support this plant initially, then they will be grow back.
Once they get a strong base, then they'll just take off and they'll be fine.
And then we have the other ones that they need a frame, or they need or a pole.
Okay.
Something to hold.
Yeah.
So the wisteria that we have behind, that won't be self-clinging against the wall, but it will be wrapping around
something.
Exactly.
It needs to wrap
a
around
pole
something,
or a trellis or whatever you can give it initially. Be careful with these fellas if you use a trellis. I will use a pole.
Okay.
And then maybe if you want to make it climb against the wall, you're gonna need wires will be ideal.
Okay.
Creating a wire net to support that plant. Because eventually the weight of this will be very, very heavy.
Yeah.
So if you do a trellis, that trellis will be going down.
Okay.
It will be end up supporting by itself, but initially that weight will be pulling down.
So that's one of those ones where you just get a wire, as you were saying, the wire kind of, or a mesh and stuff like that, and like nail it into the wall.
You have to guide it.
That's where it's going to, you guide it.
If you want to train it well, the hydrangeas, you can use them in many ways, and depending on the way you use it, it has a behavior or another. If you want to grow it covering the wall, it's a different training than if you just want to have an arbor or an arch or a pergola that will be growing around. Just put a little bit of support initially, but the plant will be wrapping around that pole and growing all over the pergola or whatever you have. While in a wall, you have to guide it, all right? To cover the more, the merrier, the better.
Okay.
So we have a Campsis, a coccinea here, that will need support.
Coccinea, and it's got a beautiful orange
flowers.
That was the other thing I was going to ask, because we have there's a lot of the clematis.
We have a very large Montana here. See the large Montana we have behind?
Yeah.
That's exactly the same as this wisteria. It needs something
to wrap around.
Right next to the Killorglin Heights Hotel is a very large conifer, and it's a monster Clematis montana. This year is the first year in the 3 years of coming that it wasn't flowering profusely.
Okay.
But it's spectacular. It's taking over it's overgrowing the tree. It's amazing the way the vigor, the way they grow. That's a massive plant. You have to be careful with the Clematis montana.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like it. It could take over.
It can take over. It will climb up. If you have a holly or whatever tree you have next to that fence, it will be.
And could it smother? Could it smother other plants as well?
Yeah, it will choke them.
Choke them. Yeah.
Yeah, it will choke them.
Yeah.
So be careful with what you wish. That's a very, very, very extremely
quick growing.
quick growing plants, but they have this downside that it will be invading your garden. Not invading in terms of shootings coming, but taking over, wrapping around everything, and then cleaning is not easy.
Are any of these ones then that you'd have to trim back?
All of them.
All of them. Okay, so that's pruning is
So
a big
all
part
of them,
as well.
you will be well rewarded if you prune them normally end of the winter, early spring.
Okay.
And let's say you have a wall you need to paint, don't be afraid of bringing down the plant.
Okay.
They will be just pulling, it should be coming out easily. So if you have a full wall full of Boston ivies, you get your ladder up and start pulling, and it should be coming very, very easily. Once you have a decent stem, you start pulling down, and all should be coming with no damage.
Okay.
But you need to prune them in a perfect world. They like hard pruning, actually.
Oh, they do like it. Okay,
They do like hard pruning. So the problem with those plants sometimes is that they cover they cover windows, they cover roofs, they cover everything. Don't be afraid of bringing them down hard.
Okay. But it's always it's late winter, early spring.
Late winter, as a rule of thumb.
Yeah.
Bring them down as hard as you want.
Yeah.
They will be happy as Larry. They will be growing back again like lunatics.
Yeah. And are they all neutral soil
Neutral
types?
soils. They don't have any specific. Well, in terms of soil, they are all good.
Okay.
No specific needs for all of them. Good fertile soil. Good drainage.
Feeding?
Feed them. If you feed them better.
Yeah.
I don't think people feed them much.
Right.
But the more you feed them, or a right
they're gonna grow.
A right feeding is always essential.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would you need to top dress them then maybe every year down
That
underneath them?
would be ideal.
Yeah.
Ideal, a little bit of manure or very good compost, decent compost.
Again, springtime?
Springtime, early spring. Feeding them in their growing period with a regular multi-purpose food.
Okay.
Slow release food is good for them.
Right.
Again, top dressing with good compost is a good practice.
Just be careful of that clematis
That
montana.
monster.
You don't want to feed him too much
see,
because he'll be.
If you give them a little bit of nitrogen to this plant, the leaves will be changing the color to darker green.
Oh, right.
So it doesn't matter if they're growing good or bad. You should feed them regularly.
Okay.
All the plants.
And exposure then, do any of them kind of need of light, or will
most
they
of
work in
them,
shade?
most of them, except in the wisteria, they can grow in. The wisteria will prefer full sun.
Okay, full sun.
While the other ones will do good in full sun or partial shade. You also have, we talked about this, the climbing hydrangea and the ivies. Normally they can do good in full shade.
Okay.
Full shade is not very common, but because it's normally it's light everywhere. But if they can grow in a north, very shady wall, surrounded by trees with no direct light, the climbing hydrangeas or ivies are your plants. So it's a plant for everybody in terms of growing, in terms of flowering. Trachelospermum. Look at this, what I have here.
Okay, I'll bring it out here. Hold on, I'll bring it out here on the front. Now this is a beautiful variegated leaf here.
This is a variegated Boston ivy.
A variegated Boston ivy,
Boston
okay.
ivy.
So the first Boston ivy we were talking about for our listeners has a kind of a brown, kind of a purple leaf. It starts off green and then it kind of goes purple, or is it starts purple and goes green?
Because they should have come in green.
Okay.
But these fellas, the Henriana, came in red.
Okay.
They are now fading to green.
Oh, so they fade to green. So
and then they will be coming back to red in either the new shootings and in autumn time.
Okay.
But what we have here is another Parthenocissus that is called star showers.
And it looks, I can tell, it looks like it was showered with white paint.
That
yellow
is
paint.
the same family as the one you have here.
Yeah.
This plant goes to pink.
Pink,
right. Orange, pink, red.
Wow.
In autumn time, and it's just something beyond description.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful, different plant, because we all have seen these Boston ivies, these regular ivies, these pyracanthas, wisterias. We have seen them all. But have you seen these before?
No.
That gives you the foliage.
Yeah, beautiful
and that
foliage.
gives you foliage in the summertime as well. That clear, white, yellowish with
and
the
a
green.
spectacular show then in autumn.
And
So
then
this
autumn is
one
mind-blowing.
This one's called a Virginia Creeper, but as you can apparently.
There's a variegated Virginia's creeper.
Yeah.
Those is plenty of different varieties of Virginia's creeper, Boston ivies.
Okay.
But this one is a spectacular for
Star
its
showers,
foliage
yeah,
and star showers.
Beautiful.
And what else?
Is there anything finally to wrap it up?
Well, you have
Do you
the
have to
star
remember?
jasmine there.
Oh,
I forgot about this fella.
yes. Now this is
That's a twining plant. That's a shade-loving plant.
So
with
loves the shade.
spectacular flowering. We have two right behind us. Well, right in front of us. One in front of you there.
Oh, yeah.
With all the flowers.
Beautiful.
And it's very scented. Very easy to look after.
Okay.
Very easy,
hardy.
Very
looks
hardy
quite hardy
plants.
as well.
Very
Yeah.
hardy plants. So we have a lot. They are, unfortunately, they are becoming less popular. These
Okay.
plants over the years,
Yeah.
and plenty of growers are stopping growing
making them.
different things. So unfortunately, we don't have plenty of different things like this.
Yeah.
Boston
Yeah.
ivy is normally all.
But I guess
A, B, and
it's down
C.
to an underappreciation, Miguel, and maybe, as you said at the start, people thinking that it's actually going to do damage when in fact these will protect. I love how you started off saying that it also gives it a great mental health aspect to it.
Yes.
That aesthetically, when you look at it, it's calming and it's relaxing. So we really need to bring them back, don't we? We really need to bring back the
Well,
popularity
talk
of
to
some
the
of these.
growers because
Yeah.
I think the problem is their problem more than the problem, people's
people
problem,
looking for
because
them.
growing them is not easy.
Oh,
actually.
okay, right.
Growing them from small plants is not easy. They need certain
And
conditions.
finally, just when you're talking about that, is there a fear of seedlings, or will these just be one plant, or will you actually get others?
you get one plant of these, but believe me, one is
It's
enough. One is enough.
I'm sure my wife will love that one if I bring home one of these to the wall.
Take the showers one.
Take the showers one, absolutely. That's is that that's a present? Oh, thanks, Miguel. You're
yeah,
ever so
you
good.
drive the back to the back.
I'll be running,
There's no
legging it out the
cameras
back
here.
door. Listen, Miguel, thank you so much again for all those interesting information on climbers, and for all of you out there who have been looking to cover that wall or to find something that might actually finish off your garden. Some of these beautiful climbers could be just the answer. Miguel, thank you as always.
Thank you.
And hopefully you enjoyed the show. Until next time, from myself and Dave and everyone here at Boyles and Killorglin, happy gardening.